She had once ruled the sky. Now she could not even stand. On the cold planet Virex 9, the palace walls were tall, silver, and silent. Inside one of the upper towers, a young alien woman sat in a floating wheelchair. Her name was Princess Alira, once known as the Flame of Virex. 10 years ago, she had led the planetary defense fleet. She was strong, fast, and fearless. Her name was sung in warrior songs. But now, most people had forgotten those days. They only saw a broken girl, locked in silence, staring out the window. Alira hadn't walked in 10 years. Her spine had been crushed during the war with the Zarnak hive. The doctors on Virex 9 had tried everything: healing crystals, energy baths, even genetic restitching. Nothing worked. She was left paralyzed from the waist down. Her father, King Talzin, once proud of her, had slowly pushed her aside. In royal meetings, her chair was placed near the back. Her opinion was no longer asked. Her name was no longer written in the star records. She had become a ghost in her own palace. Every morning, her maid, an old alien woman named Lunette, helped her dress. Every afternoon, Alira rolled to the window and stared at the training grounds far below. She watched young warriors run, fight, and fly. She never cried, but her heart was heavy every single day. One cloudy evening, something unusual happened. Human arrived. Humans were rare on Virex 9. The planet had strict rules about off-worlders. But this one, Jaren Vale, was brought in by the Minister of Engineering. He was a mechanic, or so they claimed, and an expert in advanced prosthetics. No one thought much of him. He was quiet, kept his head low, and spent most of his time in the lower tech labs. But Alira noticed him. From her window, she saw him walking alone, carrying heavy cases of tools, working without complaint. One morning, while Lunette pushed her down the hall, they passed Jaren by accident. Alira's eyes met his. He did not look away. He did not look at her like she was broken. He looked curious, not in a rude way, but as if he saw something possible. That night, Alira asked Lunette to bring her a data pad. She hadn't spoken much in years, but her voice was calm. "I want to know about the human," she said. Lunette raised an eyebrow but obeyed. "Why him, princess?" Alira looked at her dead legs. "Because he didn't pity me." A few days later, Jaren was called to the upper tower by royal request. The guards thought it was a mistake. "Why would the princess want to see a human engineer?" one muttered. When Jaren entered the room, Alira waited by the window. She turned to face him slowly. "You build machines that move for those who cannot," she said. Jaren nodded. "I do. On Earth we call them exosuits or prosthetic limbs. No one here has helped me walk," she said. "Can you?" Jaren stepped closer. His voice was honest. "I don't know, but I want to try." Her hands trembled. She whispered, "Why?" Jaren paused. "Because you're still alive. And because I've read your war reports. You're not done yet." That was the first time. In years, someone had reminded her of who she used to be. The next few weeks were filled with quiet visits. Jaren scanned her body, studied her spinal data, and designed something new, something never used before on Virex 9. It was not just a pair of robotic legs. It was a full spinal neural sync system, a machine that could listen to her damaged nerves and move. The palace healers laughed at the idea. "The human plays with toys," one scoffed. "He doesn't understand Virexian biology." But Alira believed. She agreed to the experiment. Her father, the king, was furious. "If this fails, you will be humiliated again," he said. Alira smiled softly. "Then let me fail standing up." One night, under full moonlight, the operation began. Wires touched her spine. Metal joined with flesh. Pain shot through her back. But it wasn't the pain of injury. It was the pain of something awakening. She screamed. Jaren held her hand and whispered, "It's working." Lunette cried silently from the corner. The silent years were ending. She wasn't standing yet. But the fire inside her had returned. The palace was still sleeping when Jaren walked into the tower again. Most aliens on Virex 9 didn't trust humans. To them, Jaren was just another outsider. Strange, soft-spoken, and not built for war. But Princess Alira had seen something different in him, and now she had allowed him to do the impossible. Jaren stood in the quiet lab beneath the tower. It smelled like burned wires and cold metal. His tools floated around him. Earth-made scanners, microcircuit implants, and a glowing green data pad filled with Alira's spinal map. He wasn't just building legs, he was rebuilding hope. Alira sat nearby, her wheelchair locked in place. She wore a gray robe, simple but clean. Her face was calm, but her eyes followed every movement Jaren made. "You're not like other humans," she said suddenly. Jaren didn't look up. "Because I don't talk much?" "Because you look at broken things and want to fix them." Jaren finally glanced at her. His voice was quiet. "And you're not broken, just waiting." The robotic legs he brought weren't ordinary. They were long, sleek, and silver with black stripes, built from a mix of Earth titanium and alien fibers stolen from old Virex warships. But more important than the metal was the neural spine harness, a thin set of sensors that would wrap around her back and talk directly to her damaged nerves. "You'll feel burning, pressure, maybe even fear," Jaren warned. "But if the system responds, your brain will learn to control them." Alira gave a faint smile. "I've lived with pain for 10 years. Let's see if I remember how to feel something else." The first test was small. Jaren attached the spine harness to her back. The cold touch of the device made her shiver. A sharp sound rang through the room. Click, whir, buzz as it activated. For a moment, nothing. Then Alira's fingers twitched. Not her hands. Her toes. Something deep inside her leg responded. She gasped. "I felt that," she whispered. Jaren's eyes widened. "Then it's starting, you're sinking." Each day became training. Jaren adjusted the code. Alira practiced tiny movements. Her legs didn't always listen. Sometimes they kicked out violently. Once she fell forward, crashing to the ground. But she laughed. "I haven't hit the floor like that in years," she said with a grin. Word started to spread. Guards whispered. Healers frowned. Even the king's advisor, High Scholar Tenrak, visited to observe. "Your Majesty will not approve of this," he warned her. "You are royalty, not a science project." Alira's reply was cold. "I was a soldier long before. I was a princess." One evening, Jaren was working late reprogramming one of the leg actuators when Alira spoke again. "Why do you help me, Jaren?" He didn't answer at first. He kept soldering tiny wires, his hands steady. Then he said, "My sister was born without legs. On Earth, they told her she'd never run. I built her first exo-walker when I was 12. He looked at Alira now. "She runs faster than me now. Last week, she joined the Mars Defense Fleet." Alira nodded slowly. "You don't give up easily." "No," Jaren said, "and neither do you." But not everyone was happy. The king found out about the project from his advisors. In a private meeting, he slammed his fist on the table. "My daughter is being used by an outsider," he growled. But High Scholar Tenrak hesitated. "Your Majesty, she walked 3 steps yesterday." The king froze. 3? "Yes, sir. And she did not fall." The next morning, Jaren arrived at the lab to find the power shut off. Guards were standing at the door. "By order of the king, all further experiments are forbidden," the head guard said. Jaren clenched his fists. "You don't understand. She's improving. She needs this," but the guards didn't care. They seized his tools. They shut down the scanner. They locked the door to the lab. When Alira arrived and saw the room, her face turned pale. "He's scared," she whispered. "My father is scared I'll rise again." Jaren looked at her. "Then we won't ask permission." That night, they moved in secret. Lunet helped hide equipment in the old garden tower, abandoned since Alira's childhood. There, with moonlight streaming through broken glass, the work began again. The legs were ready. Only one test remained. Alira stood. Her legs wobbled. She clenched her fists. 1 step, 2 steps. The floor groaned beneath her as the robotic feet adjusted. Her knees bent, her back straightened. She did not fall. She walked, and someone was watching through the shadows. The stars above Virex 9 shimmered like frozen fire, but deep inside the palace ruins, something more powerful was being reborn. Alira's steps. Each movement was slow, each breath sharp. The robotic legs clanked softly with every shift, their joints learning her rhythm, her balance. They weren't just machines, they were becoming part of her. But the palace didn't sleep that night. Inside the shadows, a hooded figure watched from a broken window. His name was Commander Varlin, head of the Royal Guard, and he had once led the strike team that carried Alira home, shattered and bleeding, after the Hive War. He had seen her fall, and now, unbelievably, he was seeing her rise. Meanwhile, in the abandoned garden tower, Jaren's fingers moved fast across the screen. The interface was blinking. Green, orange, green again. "Your spine is fully synced," he said, "but the neural relay is still unstable. If the connection spikes, the system could shut down or overload." Alira didn't flinch. Then, "We keep walking. I want the pain, I want the danger, it means I'm alive." Lunette stood nearby, worried. "Princess, what if your body gives out again?" Alira turned toward her, standing tall, robotic limbs humming beneath her robe. "Then I fall forward this time, not backward." For the next week, training was brutal. Jaren designed obstacle simulations, uneven floors, steep steps, fast turns. Alira failed again and again. Her legs locked. She crashed. She bled, but she never stopped. And every time she fell, she smiled. Her movements became sharper. Her posture grew stronger. The old fire returned to her eyes. Even Lunette noticed. "She's laughing again," she whispered to Jaren one evening. "She hasn't done that in years." But outside, Varlin had reported everything to the king. King Talzin stood before the High Council, furious. "My daughter is placing her body and our bloodline at risk because of a human toy builder." "Majesty," said High Scholar Tenrak, "it is no toy. She's walking. She's even training." "Enough," the king roared. "Then perhaps she's ready to defend herself." The room went silent. Tenrak's face tightened. "What do you mean?" the king smirked coldly. "Send her a test. Let's see if this metal miracle is more than a puppet." That night it rained across the outer palace fields. Silver lightning cracked above the horizon. In the garden tower, Jaren tightened a screw on Alira's leg joint. "You're moving, better than ever. Your nerves are adapting fast. I could race the old guards by next week," she joked. Jaren smiled. "You'd win." Suddenly, a loud crash came from the outer corridor. Alira and Jaren turned sharply. 4 dark-armored warriors stepped into the room. Their weapons were drawn, but not pointed to kill. They were testing her, palace enforcers. "We are here under royal order," one said coldly. "You are to submit to a mobility challenge. No powers, no help. You win, you keep the legs, you fail. They are removed." Lunette gasped. "That's not a challenge, it's punishment." But Alira stepped forward. "No," she said, voice firm. "It's a message, and I'll answer it." The palace guards led them into the old arena, now covered in dust. The test was brutal, running, dodging, leaping across unstable platforms. Dozens of servants gathered to watch silently from the edges. Alira stood at the start line. Jaren stood outside the field, fists clenched. "You don't have to do this, it's a trap." Alira looked at him. "It's not a trap, it's proof, and I'll make sure they remember." The countdown began. 3, 2, 1, go. She launched forward. Her legs responded instantly, quicker than anyone expected. Her steps hammered against the stone ground, metal echoing like war drums. She leapt over barriers. She ducked swinging arms. The crowd whispered. She didn't stumble once. Until, zap. A flash of energy sparked from her leg. Jaren's datapad screamed in red. The neural node is overheating. Alira winced but pushed forward. Her body shook. Her balance wobbled. She didn't stop. She roared. The final platform rose. She had to leap 6 feet straight across and land on unstable rock. Don't do it, Jaren shouted. But she did, and she landed, and stood. The crowd gasped. Even the guards looked at each other in disbelief. One by one, they bowed their heads. She had passed. Later that night, the king sat in his throne chamber, silent. She didn't just walk, Varlin reported. She flew. King Talzin's jaw tightened. My daughter is no longer under control. Back in the garden tower, Jaren reconnected the neural core. You pushed beyond safe limits, he warned. You could have shut down your whole system. Alira sat, legs steaming slightly. She smiled. Then we need stronger metal. Because I'm just getting started. The sun rose slowly over Virex 9, casting golden light across the towers. But inside the palace, something far more powerful than sunlight was rising. Princess Alira's legend. She had passed the impossible test. She had survived the king's secret challenge. But this was only the beginning, because someone had recorded the entire thing. And now, the galaxy would know. The next morning, a transmission leaked across the Virexian net. It showed a shaky, zoomed-in video from the old arena, Alira, standing, Alira, running, Alira, leaping into the air and landing like a storm. It went viral within hours. Every planet in the quadrant heard the name again, Alira the Unbroken. The people started whispering, the soldiers started remembering, and the enemies started watching. Inside the garden tower, Jaren was pacing. Who recorded it? It wasn't us. Lunette held her head. Could be a servant, or one of the guards. Alira sat calmly, her new legs folded beneath her. Let them see it. Let the world know I'm not a ghost anymore. Jaren shook his head. That kind of attention will bring danger. I welcome it, she said, her voice steel. I spent 10 years in silence. Now they'll hear me walk. But deep inside the palace walls, alarms were already beginning to blink. In the war chamber, General Mirik of the Zarnak Hive watched the leaked video with insectoid eyes. She walks again, he hissed. A tall, thin advisor beside him responded. The Virex princess was thought to be crippled forever. General Mirik's claws twitched. Then it's time we finish what we started. He tapped a screen. A red mark appeared on a star chart, directly over Virex 9. Back at the palace, the king was growing uneasy. He summoned High Scholar Tenrak and Commander Varlin. She should never have walked, the king said bitterly. That human has turned her into a symbol. Or a weapon, Varlin said. And now she walks beyond your control. The king clenched his fists. Then if I cannot stop her, I must redirect her. He looked at Tenrak. Send her to the outer provinces. A peace mission. Far from the capital. Tenrak hesitated. And if she refuses? The king's voice grew colder. Then make her believe she's wanted there. That evening, Alira sat with Jaren beneath the open sky. For the first time in years, she could feel the wind not just on her face, but through her body. Her legs were sinking fully now. No spasms, no stumbles. Jaren stared at her in awe. You don't even need balance assist anymore. She smiled gently. These aren't just legs, Jaren, they're mine now. He turned toward her. I built them for you, but you made them powerful. Just then, a messenger drone flew into the garden and landed. Alira took the scroll and read it slowly. She frowned. What is it? Jaren asked. A mission, she said. My father wants me to lead a peace journey to the outer provinces. Now? Jaren looked confused. Why now? Alira looked to the stars. Because now the people believe in me again. They left 2 days later, Alira in royal armor, shining silver and black. Her legs moved like fluid metal. She rode a hover, transport at the front of the convoy with Jaren by her side. Villagers gathered along the roads waving. Children shouted her name. In one quiet farming town, an old woman touched her arm and said, "My granddaughter wants to be a warrior now. Because of you." Alira felt something warm rise in her chest, something she hadn't felt in years. Pride. But peace was not what waited ahead. Late one night, the convoy stopped by a canyon outpost. The stars were unusually quiet. Jaren was adjusting a joint motor when a loud bang rang through the camp. Screams followed. Shadows moved through the fog, tall, fast, and insect-like. Zarnak hunters. Jaren grabbed a scanner. "They're here! They tracked the video!" Alira stepped forward, her armor glowed, her legs hummed. She looked toward the screams and ran into the dark. The fight was chaos. The Zarnak moved fast. Blades flashed, beams fired, but Alira was faster. She ducked, dodged, then launched into a double kick that sent two enemies crashing into the rocks. Her robotic legs absorbed the shock with ease. Jaren watched in awe as she moved like lightning. A Zarnak soldier charged her, huge and armed. She rolled under his strike, then stabbed upward with a captured blade. Sparks flew. The enemy fell. It wasn't just movement, it was warrior rhythm, and it was back. By dawn, the attackers had fled. The villagers stood in silence. Alira's armor was scratched. Her arms were bruised, but her legs held steady. She stood before the people and spoke. "Did not come here for peace. I came here to protect the future." The Zarnak hive had been silent for years, but silence is never peace. It is the breath before a scream. And now, the scream had begun. In the deep void of space, far from Virex 9, General Mirik stood inside the hive command nest, surrounded by glowing bioscreens and whispering drones. The leaked footage of Alira had been watched over 10 million times across the systems. A crippled princess now walking? No. Fighting? He slammed his claw into the table. She was supposed to be broken, useless. The Zarnak hive had lost to Virex 9 once before. He would not allow it to happen again. Back on Virex 9, Alira stood before the burned ruins of the outpost she had just saved. Villagers gathered around her, some injured, others shaking with fear. Her armor was cracked and blood ran down her arm, but she didn't care. Her legs were still moving. "I thought we were safe," a young girl said softly. Alira knelt beside her. "We will be, but peace must be protected." Jaren approached from behind. "That wasn't a scouting party. They were testing your strength." Alira looked toward the sky. "Then they'll be back, with more." 2 days later in the capital, chaos had already begun. Palace guards were reinforcing the city walls. Civilian shuttles were being grounded. Fear spread like wildfire. The king held an emergency war council. "She's drawn the enemy back to our doorstep," he shouted. High Scholar Tenrak spoke calmly. "Or maybe," she reminded them, "we still have a defender." Commander Varlin crossed his arms. "We cannot win this war with old leaders and old fears. If we want to survive, we must let her lead." The king's face turned pale with rage. "She is my daughter, not my general." But outside the palace, the people were chanting her name. In the garden tower, Alira reconnected with her old squad, Captain Drex, her second in command during the Hive War, now ran a trade ship. Ceres, the tech hacker, had vanished into exile after the ceasefire. Mako, the silent blade fighter, had taken a vow never to raise a weapon again. But when Alira's signal reached them, one by one, they returned. She stood before them not as a crippled royal but as a commander reborn. "I'm not asking you to fight for me," she said. "I'm asking you to fight with me. For the future we lost. For the world that left us behind." They nodded. The fire was back. Meanwhile, Jaren had been working on something new. He brought Alira a small black case. Inside were 4 glowing blue orbs. "What are these?" she asked. "Upgrades," he smiled. "Energy converters. If your legs overheat during battle again, these will cool and recharge them instantly." Alira raised an eyebrow. You really never stop building, do you? Jaren laughed. I never stopped believing. But far away in the Zarnak war nest, General Mirik had prepared a surprise of his own. Inside a sealed chamber, a strange figure floated in a pod, a fusion of flesh and machine, an exo-Zarnak. Built from the same technology that saved her, Mirik said, we will turn her gift into her curse. The creature's red eyes opened. Send it to Virex, Mirik commanded. It will finish what we started 10 years ago. Back on Virex 9, the night was quiet, but not peaceful. Elira stood alone in the training field. Her legs hummed softly beneath her, strong and smooth. She stared at the stars, knowing war was coming. Jaren approached, holding a datapad. We picked up strange signals, something fast and mechanical, coming from deep space. Elira narrowed her eyes. It's for me. Hours later, alarms screamed through the palace city. A fireball crashed through the sky, landing just outside the capital. Civilians screamed. Troops ran toward the site. Elira, already suited in armor, raced toward the smoke. Jaren followed, activating her boosters. They reached the crater. And there, crawling out of the impact, was a creature unlike anything they'd ever seen. Twisted Zarnak body, metallic limbs, glowing red spine. Jaren's face went pale. It's using my design. The creature raised its head and spoke in a distorted voice. Hello, princess. The first punch came fast. Too fast. The exo-Zarnak slammed into Elira, launching her backwards. Her legs locked to absorb the impact. She rolled, came up, and struck back. Metal hit metal. Nerve hit code. The two warriors clashed, not as alien and machine, but as mirrors. You were built to heal, the creature hissed. I was built to destroy. Elira gritted her teeth. Then let's see whose purpose is stronger. The fight with the exo-Zarnak left deep scars on the land, and deeper ones in the heart of the palace. Elira had survived. Barely. Her robotic legs were damaged, one joint cracked, sparks flickering. Her body was bruised, her armor shattered. But she had driven the enemy back, using every last ounce of strength. And still her father was furious. King Talzin sat on his throne, face tight, with rage. The council chamber was full, but no one spoke. The battle had been seen live on the military channels. The people had cheered her name, and the king hated it. She brought war to our doorstep, he growled. She defied my commands. She is no longer fit to wear the royal crest. High Scholar Tenrak tried to reason. Your Majesty, she saved hundreds. Her legs, her leadership, built by a human, the king snapped. She let an outsider put machines in her body. What else has she let him do? Down in the tower, Jaren was working day and night. The damage to Elira's legs was worse than expected. Her left leg actuator was fried and the neural sync was unstable. But Jaren wasn't worried, he was angry. She fought an enemy designed to destroy her, he muttered. And still she won. Lunat placed a hand on his shoulder. The king is planning something. I feel it. Jaren stopped. What kind of something? The kind that ends with cuffs, or a sword. That night, the door to the tower burst open. Palace guards stormed in, dozens of them. Elira tried to stand, but her damaged leg sparked and locked. The lead guard stepped forward. By royal decree, the princess is to be placed under house arrest. Jaren stepped in front of her. You're making a mistake. The guard shoved him aside. You have 5 minutes, he said coldly. Then we drag her. Elira looked at Jaren. Get the backups, the hidden ones. Jaren's eyes widened. You're not giving up? She stared hard. I didn't spend 10 years in silence just to be silenced again. He nodded and ran. As the guards closed in, Elira powered up what was left of her legs. Even damaged, they responded to her like loyal beasts. She stood, her breathing deepened, and then she ran. The palace echoed with the sound of alarms. She sprinted through the lower halls, limping but moving fast. The guards chased her, but they weren't ready for a princess who could fly through corridors on half-broken robotic limbs. Jaren met her at the service exit with a hoverbike. They escaped into the wild zones, ruins from the Hive War, now forgotten. By the royal patrols, there inside a hidden shelter, Jaren opened a crate. 2 new leg units, sleeker and stronger. These were just prototypes, he said. But they're faster and smarter. Alira sat down. Then plug them in. Back in the palace, the king stood alone in his chamber, watching the old war footage on the screen. Alira as a child, holding a sword. Alira flying a starship. Alira, wounded in the final battle. He closed his eyes. She was supposed to be safe, hidden, forgotten, but even he knew now, she was never meant to sit still. In the ruins, the new legs synced perfectly. Alira stood taller, her movements smooth like wind and steel. Jaren looked at her with awe. "You're not just walking anymore," he said. "You're evolving." Alira looked toward the capital. "I'm not the one who should be afraid now." Suddenly, a transmission burst through their private channel. It was from Cirrus, their hacker friend. "The king just issued a full arrest warrant. For both of you. And worse, he's made a deal." "A deal?" Jaren asked. "With the Zarnak," Cirrus whispered. "He's trading you for a false peace. He gives you up and they pull back their armies." Alira froze. Her own father had betrayed her. "Send the message to the public," she said quietly. "Let the people hear the truth." The next morning, every screen on Virex 9 lit up. A video played, Alira, standing in her armor, speaking directly to her people. "The king has chosen fear. I choose freedom. You gave me strength with your belief. Now, I give it back." And then she stepped aside. And the people saw Jaren, a human, her ally, her builder, her friend. "We stand together," she said. "Machine and flesh, past and future. If you're ready to rise, meet me at the gates." The gates of Virex 9's capital had never been touched by protest. Until now, thousands of citizens, warriors, scientists, and even old veterans gathered before the palace. Screens across the city showed the same message. "We walk because she stood." The people were not chanting the king's name. They were chanting hers, Alira, Alira, Alira. In the palace, King Talzin stood at the top of the throne steps, his face pale. The crowd was larger than anything he had seen, even during the war. His advisors begged him to speak. "Say something to calm them," whispered Tenrak. But the king knew. He had already lost them. Outside the walls, Alira stood tall in her new armor, black and silver, glowing with light. Her upgraded robotic legs hummed with silent power. She looked at the crowd. So many faces. So much belief. Beside her stood Jaren, his tools slung across his back. Captain Drex, Saris, and Mako flanked her sides. The old warrior squad reunited, after a decade. This wasn't just a protest, it was a march. The gates opened. Not because the king allowed it, but because the guards stepped aside. One of them even saluted Alira as she passed. Inside the palace, they walked through silent halls. No one dared stop them. The throne room doors loomed ahead. Alira stopped. Her hand hovered near her hip, where a ceremonial blade was locked. Jaren touched her shoulder. "You don't need to draw it. You already won." She nodded. Then the doors. Ganta King Talzin stood alone. No guards, no council, just a father, who had tried to control what he never understood. He looked at his daughter, not as a ruler but as a man watching history move without him. "You turned my people against me," he said. Alira walked closer, her steps calm and controlled. The sound of her metal feet echoed across the marble. "No," she replied. "You turned away from them. I just reminded them how to stand." He sneered. "And what now? You want the throne?" She shook her head. "I don't want your chair. I want my future. And I want you to get out of its way." He reached for a hidden blade behind the throne. but before his hand could touch it, a beam of light shot past him. Jaren held a pulse emitter, his hand steady. "I wouldn't," he said, flatly. Talzin's eyes flared. "A human threatens royalty now?" "No," said Alira. "Humanity saved it." Later that day, Alira stood on the royal balcony speaking to the galaxy for the first time in 10 years. "I was born a warrior, broken in war, and left behind by my own people. I spent years silent, watching the world move without me. But one human, one outsider refused to look away. He didn't fix me, he reminded me that I was still alive." She looked back at Jaren and smiled. "He gave me legs. But you all, gave me the strength to walk again." The crowd below cheered so loud, the sky shook. 1 week later, King Talzin officially stepped down, leaving Alira to lead the new council, not as a queen, but as a reformer. She refused the throne. Instead, she opened Virex 9's borders to all peaceful species, including humans. She built a new academy, where old war veterans taught young minds. And Jaren? He led a division that gave prosthetics to anyone who needed them, for free. The Hive never attacked again. Perhaps they feared her strength, or perhaps they finally respected it. One quiet evening, Alira walked alone through the palace gardens. Real. Grass under her robotic feet, birds in the sky, freedom in the air. Jaren joined her carrying 2 mugs of tea. "I never expected to end up here," he said. She looked at him. "Neither did I. But maybe we were both broken in the right places, so we could fit together." They stood in silence. Then she whispered something only he could hear. "I may have lost my legs long ago, but I never lost my heart." And that's how the galaxy remembered her. Not as the girl who sat, but the warrior who rose.